Welcome to This Week in Hastings Headline History, where we take a look back at what was making news in Hastings, Florida over a century ago. These are stories directly out of the pages of the Hastings Herald, which was published weekly in the early 1900s. So sit back and enjoy as I share with you a few of the stories in the August 1st, 1919 edition. Dredging work in full swing on Deep Creek. A notice from the government has been received that the dredge is now at work on Deep Creek. This dredge will cut a channel 50 feet wide and 80 feet deep from the deep water of the St. Johns River up to the mouth of the creek. The channel will be held to these dimensions all the way up the creek, every impediment cleared out, and sandbars cut to the railroad bridge just above the dock. The opening up of the creek again brings to mind great possibilities of running large freight boats on the creek. The present dock site is held in trust by 5 trustees for the farmers of Hastings. It is now suggested that the people of Hastings get together and pay for the site and organize a transportation company and secure a good boat either by lease or buying outright. Heavy sentence for J.W. Johnson. The stealing of 2 Bibles valued at $1 from the First Baptist Church of Hastings is a crime sufficiently serious to warrant a sentence of $250 or 6 months in the opinion of Justice of the Peace Chaz A. Root. About a week ago, a white man by the name of J.W. Johnson, a stranger in these parts, was arrested by Sheriff Hagan of Putnam County on a warrant by Constable Charlie Green of Hastings on the charge of having stolen 2 Bibles valued at $1 from the Baptist Church at Hastings. The prisoner was taken to St. Augustine and kept in the county jail for 1 week. On Tuesday, he was brought here and tried before the Justice of the Peace, with the result that Judge Root sentenced Johnson to pay a fine of $250 or serve 6 months hard labor. It is stated that he is not sufficiently strong to do much work. The man claims he bought the Bibles for 35 cents from a man who had a sack full and was selling them cheap. When Johnson attempted to sell his 2, he was apprehended. A person peddling a sack full of Bibles who does not answer Johnson's description is known to have been seen in New Augustine something over a week ago. And if you're wondering what other kinds of cases were being heard in the criminal court in Hastings in 1919, this week's edition had a look at a few other items on the docket. Isaiah Field was charged with not having a chauffeur's license, fined $15 and costs or 30 days at hard labor. He paid the fine. Alonzo Baker was charged with assault and battery, fined $10 and costs or 30 days. He paid the fine. And Julia Smith was charged with assault, battery, and open profanity. Her case was dismissed for insufficient evidence. Hastings has new member in the potato game. Hastings can now boast of another potato concern, which, while new in this part of the country, has been in the game for the past 14 years. Mr. Dutton, who is well known among the celery, potato, and cabbage dealers further south in the state, has chosen Hastings as one of the live centers in Florida. At present, he has a number of acres, and from all prospects he will be interested in about 5,000 acres of Hastings gold nuggets. His territory will be from Elkton to DuPont, including Hastings. Bridge over St. John's assured. The Duval Board of County Commissioners opened bids for the erection of the proposed bridge across the St. Johns River connecting Jacksonville with South Jacksonville. All of the bids were within the $950,000 raised for this purpose by the bond issue, and therefore the immediate construction of the long-needed bridge is assured. The Hastings Herald had more than stories you would find in modern newspapers. It also had local notices that were more of a social report, a way to know what was going on in town and in the personal lives of residents. Here are a few from this edition. An enjoyable outing. A number of young people enjoyed an outing at St. Augustine Beach Saturday afternoon, the affair being given in honor of Miss Carol Whitney of Elkton, who is the guest of Miss Edith Power at her home on Joyner Street. Bathing, dancing, and motoring were the principal diversions of the afternoon. Early in the evening, a picnic supper was spread and enjoyed. Always on the go. J.R. Slim Knight is always on the go and brightens things up around Hastings, which he says is the place next to heaven. We think Slim was a bit off the track when it was 103 in the shade last Wednesday. He is about to finish a good job of interior decorating and outside finish for J.B. Hughes & Company, the big brick store. Slim sure makes things look new if you'll just let him to it a while. Built new barn. Bert Badger is the proud possessor of a new barn, and one that is a credit to the community. The building is 44 by 50 feet and is modern in every detail. He will begin soon to give it a good painting job and otherwise complete the job. Keep up the good work. Tractors arrived. The St. John's Motor Company received a carload of Fordston tractors last Wednesday and unloaded them Thursday. At an earlier day, the company received the plows to go with them, and now a demonstration will be given to show just what this marvelous little machine can do. The Fordston tractor has been tried out in almost every section of the country, and it seems the purchaser is always a satisfied customer. We know what the Ford car is, and the tractor is designed to do the work as well as can be done in this tractor age. From the editorial section, this week, a letter to the editor from City Treasurer and Tax Collector J.J. Murphy discussing bathing suits. The writer begs to publicly register his approval of the so-called one-piece bathing suits women wear nowadays in the water. He has thought it strange for many years that the life-saving service did not insist that ladies drop the skirts of their bathing suits when going into the water, for it has been extremely difficult for the fair ones to navigate either walking, swimming, or floating, while it has been next to impossible for them to run when in the water with the skirts on their suits. The undercurrent in the water, and even when there was no undercurrent, the water itself would fill into the old-style skirts, the same as the wind fills into a sail of a ship, and it would take a tremendous amount of physical exertion and effort on the part of the ladies to pull against the force that was continually threatening. The one-piece bathing suits remove that hazard and make surf bathing far safer and more delightful for the fair sex. But allow me to humbly suggest that they be furnished with a long cape or cloak of some kind to hide their nakedness while going to and coming from the water. My reason for making this suggestion is while in a bathhouse at one of the beaches recently, I observed a number of pretty young ladies in our city, clad in their one-piece bathing suits, hesitating about leaving the bathhouse to go to the water because they would be subject to the critical gaze of the crowds who assemble at the beaches with no intention of bathing themselves, but to see the sights. One of them finally said, "Come on, we will shock them," and with that they made a run for the water. What a mistaken bit of encouragement for girls to even think they will shock the audience at the beaches, when the poor little creatures are really shocking themselves into doing something their feminine virtue inwardly shrinks from, exposing themselves to the gaze of the public. Of course, the public is always ready and willing to admire whenever they see anything worthy of admiration. But take it from me, girls, for every one of you who may be blessed with perfect, symmetrical figures and beautiful faces that will provoke the admiration of the public, there are 2 or 20 who look good only to those near and dear to them. As Shakespeare said, beauty is in the eye of the seer. To the unmerciful eye of the public, that is used oftener to harshly criticize than to admire. The vast majority of the wearers of one-piece bathing suits appear to be either too fat, too lean, or to say the least, extremely comical. Have a dear little wife myself, and heaven having blessed us with 2 little daughters, I feel that I owe it to the fellow members of their sex to write as I have done above, not with any intention of treading on anyone's toes, but with a view to suggesting a method that will shield the ladies of our fair city from the humiliation of exposing themselves to the gaze of the unmerciful public who will delight in laughing at their deformities. Very respectfully yours, James J. Murphy. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Hastings Headline History. This podcast was brought to you by Presenting the Past, bringing history back to the present through historic presentations and the sale of treasures from days gone by. This episode was written and produced by me, Michelle Morello, with the aid of vintage copies of the Hastings Herald. And to wrap up this week in Hastings Headline History, how about a tune from the time? A 1919 hit, How You Gonna Keep 'Em Down on the Farm? Performed by Nora Bayes.
Reuben, Reuben, wifey dear. Now that all is peaceful and calm, boys will soon be back on the farm. Mr. Reuben started winking, slowly rubbed his chin. He pulled his chair up close to Mother, and he asked her with a grin, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they seen Terry? How you gonna keep 'em away from Broadway, jazzing around and painting the town? How you gonna keep them away from harm? That's a mystery. Imagine Reuben when he meets his pa. He'll kiss his cheek and holler, ooh la la. How you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they seen Terry? Tell me, Mother, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they seen Terry? And how you gonna keep them away from Rector's, jazzing around and painting the town? Woo! How you gonna keep them away from harm? That's a mystery. They'll never want to see a rake or plow. And who the heck can parley-vous a cow? How you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they've seen Terry?